Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the history of Magic the Gathering, where I go set by set, release by release, inform you about some of the information about it, mechanics, cards, things about all the various products that Wizards of the Coast has released over the years. So today for you, I have Duel Decks, Elves vs. Goblins. Now this was released on November 16th of 2007 and had 120 cards. This is important because it was the first in the Duel Decks series, a series of products which still comes out to this day. Now of course the major theme for it was tribal. It matched with the fact that during this time period, Lorwyn was coming out, which had a huge tribal theme, and this was supposed to match the tribal theme to Lorwyn. It in fact had two 60-card pre-constructed decks that came as part of this. One was themed to, of course, Elves, and the other to Goblins, hence the name. Now it featured cards from all the way back to Apocalypse, up until Lorwyn, so it did include some cards from Lorwyn. And it is important to note there has been a reprint of this with new updated card frames that came out in 2014 as part of the anthology series, a product that had Duel Decks anthologies, basically the most popular, a bunch of famous Duel Decks reprinted with just a slight update. Now it did feature alternate art for the two main rares for this set, the two foil rares, Ambush Commanders and Siege Gang Commander. And there was a duality to the set itself. In particular, you would see it amongst the rares of this set, these packs, that each pack had a rare that almost was mirrored of it, a duel and a pairing of it, and there were other mirror pairs set within this set that you could find. In addition, the set had a learn to play guide, and it had 3 tokens: a goblin token, an elf warrior token, and an elemental token. Its symbol was a bow and an axe. It was supposed to represent, of course, the bow for elves and the axe for goblins. Now let's talk about some of the cards from the set. There, of course, was Allosaurus Rider, where you may exile 2 green creatures instead of paying for its mana cost, and it had power and toughness equal to 1 plus the number of lands you controlled. Ambush Commander itself, where all of your forests are, in addition to being forests, 1/1 green elf creatures that are still lands, and for colorless and a green you could sacrifice an elf to give target creature +3/+3 until end of turn. Elvish Promenade allowed you to put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token into play for each elf card you controlled. Giant Growth, the classic card, made a comeback here. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn for 1 green. Harmonize was another similar card that was important, interesting. It allowed you to draw 3 cards in green. Heedless One had trample and had power and toughness equal to the number of elves in play. So if you're playing against another elf deck, Heedless One is bigger. Imperious Perfect gave all other elves +1/+1, and for 1 green and tapping it, you could put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token into the battlefield. Llanowar Elves, another classic that's back here. Tap, add 1 green and mana to your mana pool. Simple as that. Lissalar Huntmaster, when you cast an elf spell, you may put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token into the battlefield. So for each elf spell you cast, you got an elf. Slate of Ancestry, for 4 mana and tapping it, you could discard your hand and then draw a number of cards equal to the number of creatures you control. Voice of the Woods allowed you to tap 5 elves you control to put a 7/7 green elemental creature token with trample onto the battlefield. Well-Wisher you could tap to gain 1 life for each elf on the battlefield. Wirewood Lodge could tap for a colorless mana, or for a green and tapping, you could untap target elf. Wirewood Symbiote would allow you to return an elf you control to its owner's hand, and then you can untap a creature. You could only do this once a turn, but if you had a comes into play effect elf, there's a good way of returning it, putting it back out into play. Now let's move on and talk about what's in the Goblin deck. Bogart Shenanigans, when another goblin you control is put into the graveyard from play, you may have Bogart Shenanigans deal 1 damage to target player. Clicksither is a 3/3 haste that you can sacrifice a goblin to give it +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. Flamewave Invoker allows you to play 7 colorless mana and 1 red to deal 5 damage to target player. But it doesn't tap, and so it means if you had enough mana, you could keep doing it. Gem Palm Incinerator was just a goblin, but it also had cycle of 1 colorless, 1 red. And when you cycled it, you may have Gem Palm Incinerator deal damage to target creature equal to the number of goblins you control. So, yeah, I cycle it, get a replacement card, burn something. Goblin Matron, when it came into play, allowed you to search your library for a goblin card and reveal it, and then put it in your hand afterwards. You get a goblin from your deck. Goblin War Chief made it that goblins cost you 1 color less to play, and all other goblins you control have haste. Ib Halfheart, Goblin Tactician, said that when another goblin you control becomes blocked, sacrifice it to deal 4 damage to each creature that is blocking it. And for sacrificing 2 mountains, you can put 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield. So goblins explode when they become blocked, and you can put more goblins in the battlefield with them. Mog Fanatic, you could sacrifice to deal 1 damage target creature or player. You can blow them up. Mog War Marshal had Echo, and when it came into the battlefield and left the battlefield, you would put a 1/1 red goblin creature token in the battlefield. So you get another goblin when it comes out, and when it leaves. Raging Goblin is the classic 1/1 haste goblin. Simple as that. Has been reprinted a bunch. The Reckless one has haste and has power and toughness equal to number of goblins in play. Again, if you're playing a goblin deck, it becomes bigger. Siege Gang Commando, when it came out into play, you got 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, and for a colorless and a red, you could sacrifice a goblin to do 2 damage to target creature or player. It created goblins, and you could blow up goblins to damage things. And finally, Skirk Fire Marshal has protection from red, and you could tap 5 untapped goblins you control to deal 10 damage to each creature and player. Blows up everything, except for itself, because that's protection from red. But that's it for today. So I introduce you to the first of the Duel Decks series, which still comes out today. Nowadays, there's about 2 Duel Decks that come out a year. But back then, this was a new thing. This was something that a theme deck made of cards from multiple sets. Something different than what we had seen before. We had sort of seen decks made, but most of the time they're block-based or set-based. Theme decks based around a single release. This is taking cards and building decks that are built upon an important and interesting theme spread out. And so it is a legacy of things to come, almost, of the duel decks that we see nowadays, which oftentimes have interesting themes of 2 things versus each other. And here's where it started. Here's where the first of these came about. It's bringing forth a legacy we still see today. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows support the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon. Link in the description below. There's some great rewards there. Helps to grow and improve the channel and the empire. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.